So in the last one, we got a front mount hitch from Kurt and we installed it on the front of the truck and everything went fantastic with a capital F. So today we are going to build the motorcycle carrier that's going to go into the front mount hitch. This one here comes from Outprize on Amazon and as promised is a motorcycle carrier. All right, we've got the bike rack itself, we got the supports, we got a whole big bag of bolts, a ton of ratchet straps, the carrier itself, this is the part that goes into the hitch, and then the ramp to get the bike up onto the rack. So I always null out my parts, just like I did in the last video, and so now I know that I've got everything that I'm supposed to have, and I've had a chance to inspect some of it, and it's not really the best quality. Like, there's a washer that's kind of missing an ear, and down here are some nylock nuts that are a little rusty. And then the powder coat on this piece here is coming off. So it is what it is. I kind of expect a bunch of this stuff to get all rusty and ugly over the years anyway, and I don't expect this to last forever, but at least make it out of the bag is what I'm hoping for. All right, they give you these 8 bolts, and they want the nylocks on the inside. Washers on the outside and washers on the inside. And then some nylocks. There's quite a bit of flex in this, so I'm just putting these on until I get to the nylon part, and then I'll come back later and tighten them down when I've got the under braces in place. And by flex, I mean this part here can move up and down with enough slop, so I want to make sure that it's level. And then here is the part that's going to make that all level. So that block piece will go there, and then that should help pull that piece up there. And then for this, we need the bolts without the full threads. And these ones here I can tighten down all the way. So bolt and washer on the top, solid washer, split ring washer, and then nut on the bottom, in that order. Hopefully they did this right, and I only need 1 wrench and socket for the entire job. 3 more times. And then as I thought, that has pulled all of the slop right out of that and leveled that all out as best as it's going to level it out. So I went back and looked at the directions because these pieces here didn't get installed. And I found out that they go right under those bolts right there to give it some extra strength. So I'll put those in real quick. So let's tighten these guys down. All 4 of those are done on each side. And then this is a little added bonus. The little leaf springs that they have here that keep the platform steady and give it some structural reinforcement also make it so that when you ride up, you're not going to hit your tire on this metal plate here. It just would go right on by it. Your tire can only be so wide, but you know how people are with aim and everything. That's pretty cool. I'd like to think that's intentional. Next up is the parts that make the ladder rack for your tire to ride on. And my hopes of these being all the same size nut and bolt have been dashed, as these are 3/4. So new socket, new wrench. So it's going to be bolt and washer, straight through, followed by washer and nylock nut, times 8. I wouldn't want to lead you astray with the directions, but I forgot to put this part on, and it goes right on the bottom under these 2 bolts that I was using to straighten everything out before. So I have to take these bolts out, put this on. Just like that. Gotta have long arms for this part of the job. And then there is all of this slop in here, and that's what this thing here is designed to fix, is all that slop. And what we're going to do is put that on and see how well that works. And this makes it kind of a pain to put on and take off because you got to unbolt this thing every single time. So U-bolt and then lock washer, and then nut. Doing this upside down might make the whole job easier. Now let's see how much of a difference that makes. That's not bad at all. That works out really well. And last up is the ramp. The ramp goes right in there, and then there is a safety pin. And that just goes right through there and folds over the top and latches in place for you. That way your ramp's not going to fall off while you're trying to ride your bike up there. And that ramp will go on either side, no problem. So whichever side of the street you happen to be on, or campground or whatever, will work out for you. Take that pin off, take these wing nuts off. And then the wing nuts. Let's give it the Steve test. Hey, that's not too bad. Once the bike's on and strapped down, I'll probably strap it down a little bit more to the vehicle as well, but she holds. That was actually fairly easy. There is a lot of parts, and you'll notice that I didn't use any power tools at all in this video. And there's a reason for that. A lot of this stuff is just tubular steel, and you kind of lose touch with how tight some of these things are, and you're gonna start to collapse the box steel, or you're gonna compress the rails where the tire goes. So hand tools are probably best for this. Look at this halo. Next up, I gotta go and get a motorcycle and get it all on the front of the truck here with me. That's gonna be interesting looking at the handlebars going down the road, but at least I'll have peace of mind that it ain't going anywhere. Hey, what's that? So I picked it up late last night and strapped it in the dark and drove home. And here we are. I gotta get this thing off of the carrier. But first I want to go over how I strapped it down. This carrier had these 2 points here for hooking on, and they actually worked out better than I thought they would. So we have one strap going from here to the front handlebars. And these are the straps, the orange ones are the straps that came with the carrier. And then on the back, second strap from the handlebars down to the hook point. And if you guys have any better idea of what to do with the leftover strappage, I'm gonna cut it and cauterize it, but it's a mess, and this thing can wrap around your axle or get under your tire or cause all kinds of problems. This green one is one that I brought with me, and this goes from this hook point through the rack and then down to the other hook point on the other side, and then from the back rack, just to make sure that it doesn't get pulled in the wrong direction, we've got those two straps hooked on. And she's looking pretty good. That's the hitch wobble, not the bike moving on the carrier. And I thought that the ramp was going to move with these little wing nuts, but there's actually some tension. Once the bike is on, there's some tension that holds this in place, kind of like it has a built-in lock washer type setup. So I think the bike is a little too far that way, and you can kind of tell if we step back, you can see it's going downhill in relation to the truck. And of course the camera being tilted doesn't help any, but that's what gimbals are wonderful for. So the front tire is on the front bar and on the front bolt, and then there's an air gap there. And then the back tire, I should probably put it one farther back, if not two. We'll do some more testing in the future. It is on that bolt, and there seems to be a bit of an air gap on the front, and then it's sitting on the crossbar that holds the ramp in place. Ooh, sunlight. It was pretty interesting getting that thing down the road at night. I was a little worried about what was going on with it, and probably being a little overcautious. Overcaution is good, because with that thing on the front, if it were to fall, it's either gonna fall backwards onto the truck and scratch the paint, which is kind of like, who cares type, level of problems, or it's going to fall under the truck, and then I'm going to drive over it, which is going to cause all kinds of damage to all kinds of things. So there was a little bit of a white knuckle and pucker factor going on, but we're here. Time to get the bike off the carrier and get out on the trail. And I think I already got my first dead bug. Ew. Couldn't go over any of this with the straps because that is plastic. Getting the rack built and installed was not hard, and now we got to take it off. And that looks like it's going to be pretty easy too. Single person job, no problem. Let's go take a look. So I already loosened the bolts up that have the anti-sway clamp on it. I don't know what you call that thing, but I've already loosened them up, so you don't need to bear with me while I do that. Undo the clip and the pin. And then for me, it was just easy enough to grab it up front here somewhere and take it out. And there it is. And then this thing here, I just didn't loosen them all the way, so I don't have to worry about losing any of the nuts or washers or lock washers or anything. And I can just leave this right on the carrier part in the front. Just don't forget your pin. I always put that right back in when I'm done with it. So I've got the anti-wobble clip locked in place, and I've got the carrier pin secured, and there's the rack. So I probably find a way just to stick it under the camper, then use some kind of chain to chain that to the frame of the camper, or the back bumper, or the front tongue, or something like that. And then also I would chain the bike up to that so that nobody can steal either of those three things. Even with hitting the instructions a couple of times, there were still some leftover parts that don't really seem to go anywhere. But I figured there would be when I did my inventory in the beginning. So even though that one was chewed on a bit, I was able to swap it out for a different one and still have it left over as a spare. A lot better on the front of the truck than it is all the way on the back of the RV. The RV gets really polar because of how far back the bumper is from the axle. And all that polar momentum adds up and the bike starts shaking like crazy. And then if you don't have a rear camera, you're just waiting for somebody to come by and tell you that your bike disappeared. Not a good sight. Link for the rack in the description down below. It's probably good enough for what it is, and the price wasn't bad at all. And then stay tuned for the next video where we go and get the bike. In the meantime, there's a video right over here I think you might enjoy next. I'll see you over there.